He offered the Apache woman a place to stay. The next morning she asked, "Is your offer still good?" Daniel had been driving for hours on that long, empty desert road. The sky was wide and bright, and the land around him looked endless. Dry sand stretched in every direction, broken only by small bushes and distant hills. The radio in his truck played softly, but his mind was far away. He was thinking about how quiet his life had become. Since his wife passed away, the house felt too big and too silent. Work kept him busy, but when the day ended, the loneliness always came back. He usually liked driving through these lonely roads. They gave him time to think. Sometimes he felt that the road understood him better than people did. That day he was on his way back from delivering supplies to a small town. It was late afternoon and the sun was starting to lower, turning the sky a soft orange. He wanted to get home before dark, but something on the side of the road caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just a shadow or maybe an animal. Then he realized it was a person. A woman was walking slowly along the side of the highway. She carried a small bag over her shoulder. Her steps looked heavy, and her head was slightly down, as if she was tired or deep in thought. Daniel slowed the truck without even thinking about it. He told himself to keep driving. People always said it was risky to stop for strangers. He had heard many stories that made him careful, but something about the way she walked made him uneasy in a different way. She did not look dangerous. She looked tired, like someone who had been walking for a very long time with nowhere to rest. Daniel drove past her for a few seconds. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. He looked in the mirror and saw her getting smaller behind him. A feeling in his chest told him that if he did not turn back, he would regret it. He remembered how strangers had helped him years ago when his truck broke down in another state. If no one had stopped, he would have been stuck for hours in the heat. He slowly pulled over and made a careful turn. When he came back, he parked a short distance ahead of her and waited. He did not want to scare her. He stepped out of the truck slowly, keeping his hands visible, showing that he meant no harm. The woman stopped walking when she saw him. For a moment, they just looked at each other from a short distance. The desert wind moved her hair gently. Her clothes were dusty, and her face showed signs of tiredness, but her eyes were alert. She looked ready to walk away if she felt unsafe. Daniel spoke first in a calm voice. He asked if she was okay and if she needed help. His voice was polite and steady. The woman hesitated before answering. She looked at the road, then back at him. Finally, she said she had been walking for hours and was trying to get to the nearest town. Daniel told her that town was still several miles away. He could see her shoulders drop slightly when she heard that. She thanked him for telling her, but did not ask for anything. That small detail touched him. She was not demanding help. That she was simply trying to survive. He offered her a ride. He made it clear that she did not have to accept if she felt uncomfortable. He said he would just take her to town, nothing more. The woman studied his face carefully, as if trying to read his intentions. After a long pause, she nodded slowly. The heat, the distance, and her tired body made the decision for her. She walked to the truck carefully and got in. Daniel waited until she closed the door before starting the engine. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The sound of the tires on the road filled the silence. Daniel did not want to push her to talk. He knew that some people needed time to feel safe. After a while, he asked her name. She told him quietly. Her voice was soft but strong at the same time. He told her his name, too. The conversation was simple, but it helped break the tension. She explained that she was Apache and had been traveling after leaving a difficult situation. She did not give many details, and Daniel did not ask. He respected her space. As they drove, Daniel noticed small things about her, the way she looked out the window, as if thinking about many things at once, the way she held her bag close, like it held everything important in her life. He wondered how someone could end up walking alone on such a lonely road. It made him think about how life could change quickly and without warning. The town slowly appeared in the distance. A few small buildings, a gas station, and a diner were visible. It was not a big place, but it was better than being alone on the highway. Daniel felt some relief. At least she would be in a safer place. When they reached town, Daniel parked near the main street. He asked her where she wanted to go. She admitted that she did not really have a plan. She thought she might find a cheap place to stay or ask around for work. Her honesty showed how unsure her situation really was. Daniel felt a heavy feeling in his chest. He knew how hard it could be to start in a new place with no support. He remembered the days after his wife passed, when even simple decisions felt impossible. He did not want to leave her in a situation where she might have to sleep outside or face more trouble. He offered to help her look for a motel. They walked together to two small places, but both were either full or too expensive. Each time he saw disappointment grow on her face. She tried to hide it, but it was clear. The sun was going down and the air was starting to cool. The desert night could be cold and unforgiving. As they stood on the sidewalk, unsure what to do next, Daniel felt a strong pull inside him. He had a spare room at home. He had kept it empty since his wife passed. He rarely even went into that room. It held too many memories. But now, for the first time, he thought that maybe that room could be used for something good. He hesitated before speaking. He did not want to make her uncomfortable or scared. He carefully explained that he had a small house on the edge of town. He told her there was a spare room and that she could stay for the night if she wanted. He made it very clear that there were no expectations. She would have her own space and could leave whenever she chose. The woman looked surprised. She did not answer right away. Her eyes searched his face again, trying to understand his intentions. Trust did not come easily to her. Daniel could see that. Life had taught her to be careful. After a long moment, she thanked him for the offer, but said she needed to think. Daniel nodded and told her to take her time. He did not want to pressure her. He knew that accepting help from a stranger was not easy. As they stood there, the streetlights came on, one by one. The town grew quieter. The moment felt heavy with choice. For Daniel, this was not just about offering a place to stay. It was about opening his life, even just a little, after years of keeping everyone at a distance. For the woman, it was about deciding whether to trust again after whatever had happened in her past. She held her bag tighter and took a deep breath. The desert wind passed between them, carrying dust and the smell of dry earth. That evening marked the beginning of something neither of them fully understood yet. What started as a simple stop on a lonely road was turning into a moment that could change both of their lives. Neither of them knew it yet, but that choice would stay in their memories for a long time to come. Daniel waited quietly while the woman stood on the sidewalk, still holding her small bag. The town felt smaller as the evening grew darker. Cars passed now and then, but most people had already gone home. The diner lights glowed warmly across the street, and the air carried the smell of cooked food. It reminded Daniel of how long it had been since he had shared a real meal with someone. Daniel lowed. The woman finally looked up at him and said she would accept his offer for the night. Her voice was careful, but there was also relief in it. Daniel nodded and thanked her for trusting him. He knew that trust was not something that should be taken lightly. He walked with her back to his truck, opened the door for her, and they both got in. The drive to his house was quiet. The road from town to his place was narrow and mostly empty. Small houses appeared here and there, but many were dark. Daniel lived on the edge of town where the desert met the neighborhood. His house was simple, with a small yard and a fence that had seen better days. It was not fancy, but it was clean and safe. When they arrived, Daniel parked and turned off the engine. For a moment, neither of them moved. The woman looked at the house through the window. It was clear she was still deciding if she had made the right choice. Daniel understood that feeling. He told her again that if she changed her mind, he would take her back to town or help her find another option. She shook her head gently and said it was okay. She would stay. They got out of the truck and walked to the front door. Daniel unlocked it and stepped inside first, turning on the lights. The house felt quiet and a little empty, like it always did. The living room had simple furniture and framed photos on the wall. Most of the photos were old, showing Daniel and his wife on trips, smiling and younger. He suddenly felt a small wave of sadness, but he pushed it aside. He showed her where to put her bag and invited her to sit down. He offered her water, and she accepted. As she drank, Daniel noticed how thirsty she was. It made him realize how long she must have been walking and how little she might have had. He felt glad he had stopped for her. Daniel then showed her the spare room. He opened the door slowly. The room was clean but rarely used. A bed, a small dresser, and a lamp were inside. The window looked out toward the desert. The room smelled a little like old sheets and closed air, but it was safe and private. He told her that this room was hers for the night. He explained where the bathroom was and said she could shower if she wanted. He also told her she could lock her door if it made her feel more comfortable. The woman nodded, clearly grateful for the privacy. She thanked him more than once, her voice soft and sincere. After she settled her bag in the room, Daniel went to the kitchen. He realized they both probably needed to eat. He did not have much in the fridge, but he had enough to make a simple meal. He started cooking quietly, trying not to make her feel uncomfortable. While he cooked, he thought about how strange life could be. Just a few hours earlier, he had been alone on the highway, thinking only about getting home. Now, there was someone else in his house, someone whose life had crossed his in a way he could never have planned. The woman came out of the room after a while, looking a little more relaxed. She had washed her face and hands, and she looked cleaner and more rested. Daniel offered her a plate of food. It was simple, but warm. They sat at the small kitchen table and ate. At first, the conversation was slow. They talked about small things, like the weather and the town. Daniel did not want to ask too many personal questions. He did not want her to feel like she had to explain herself. But slowly, as they ate, the silence became less heavy. She shared small pieces of her story. She talked about moving from place to place and trying to find steady work. She did not go into deep details, but Daniel could hear the tiredness in her voice. It was the tiredness of someone who had been strong for a very long time. Daniel shared a little about himself, too. He told her about his job and how long he had lived in the area. He did not talk much about his wife at first, but he mentioned that he lived alone now. The woman listened quietly, showing respect and understanding. As the meal ended, Daniel felt something he had not felt in a long time. The house did not feel as empty. The simple sound of another person in the kitchen, the quiet conversation, and even the shared silence made the space feel warmer. After dinner, Daniel showed her how to lock the doors and where extra blankets were kept. He wanted her to feel safe. He reminded her again that she could leave in the morning if she wanted. There was no pressure to stay longer. This was just a place to rest. The woman thanked him again. She told him she had not expected kindness from a stranger on a lonely road. Her words stayed with him. He realized that kindness was something people needed more than they often showed. Later, they both prepared for the night. Daniel went to his own room, leaving her to have her privacy. As he lay in bed, he stared at the ceiling. His mind was full of thoughts. He wondered what her life had been like before that day. He wondered what she would do in the morning. He also wondered why he felt such a strong need to help. For the first time in a long while, Daniel did not feel completely alone in his house. The quiet was still there, but it was different. It was shared quiet, not empty quiet. That small difference meant more to him than he expected. In the spare room, the woman sat on the bed for a long time before lying down. She held her bag close and looked around the room. It was simple, but it was safe. She thought about all the nights she had spent, not knowing where she would sleep. That night, at least, she could rest. She lay down slowly, still alert, but her body was too tired to stay tense for long. The bed was soft compared to the hard places she had rested before. As her eyes closed, she felt a small sense of peace. She did not fully trust the situation yet, but she allowed herself to believe that this night might be different. Outside, the desert night was quiet. The stars were bright, and the air was cool. Inside the small house, two strangers slept under the same roof, connected by a simple act of kindness. Neither of them knew what the next day would bring. But for that night, they both had something they had been missing: a safe place and a small feeling of hope. That night was not just about shelter. It was about the beginning of trust. It was about two lives slowing down long enough to share a moment of human care. What seemed like a small decision was slowly becoming something much bigger, even if they could not see it yet. The morning light came softly through the windows of Daniel's house. The desert sun was gentle at first, painting the walls with a warm, pale glow. Daniel woke up earlier than usual. For a few seconds, he forgot that someone else was in the house. Then he remembered, and his thoughts became more careful and thoughtful. He got out of bed quietly and walked to the kitchen. He did not want to wake her. He put on a pot of coffee and started preparing a simple breakfast. The small sounds of plates, cups, and the coffee machine filled the quiet space. Normally, these sounds would feel loud in his empty house, but that morning they felt natural, like the house was doing what it was meant to do. As the smell of coffee spread, Daniel leaned against the counter and thought about the night before. He wondered if she had slept well. He hoped she felt safe. He also felt a small nervousness. He did not want to say or do anything that might make her uncomfortable. He reminded himself that she was still a guest and still a stranger in many ways. After a while, he heard soft footsteps in the hallway. The woman appeared in the kitchen doorway. She looked more rested than the day before, but her eyes still showed that she was careful. She stood there for a moment, as if unsure whether to enter fully. Daniel smiled gently and told her, "Good morning." He said she was welcome to have coffee and breakfast if she wanted. She nodded and stepped inside. She thanked him and sat at the small table. Her movements were calm but cautious, like someone who had learned to stay alert even in safe places. They ate quietly at first. The food was simple but warm. The coffee seemed to help both of them wake up. The silence was not uncomfortable, but it was filled with thoughts on both sides. Each of them was trying to understand what this new situation meant. After a few minutes, Daniel spoke. He asked if she had slept okay. She said she did, and for a brief moment, a small smile appeared on her face. She said it felt good to sleep in a real bed again. Her words were simple, but they carried a lot of meaning. Daniel nodded, understanding more than she probably realized. Slowly, the conversation became easier. She asked Daniel about his job and how long he had lived in the town. He answered honestly, telling her about his work and how he had moved there years ago with his wife. When he mentioned his wife, his voice became quieter. He did not go into many details, but she could tell it was a painful subject. She did not push him to explain more. Instead, she listened with respect. That simple act made Daniel feel more comfortable. It had been a long time since someone had listened to him without trying to fix anything or change the subject. After breakfast, Daniel offered to show her around a little if she wanted. He thought it might help her feel less trapped in the house. She agreed, saying it would be nice to see more of the town in daylight. They walked outside together. The desert air was cool in the morning, and the sky was clear. The town looked different in the sunlight. It felt calmer and more open. As they walked, Daniel pointed out small places, like the grocery store, the diner, and a small community center. He explained that sometimes people went there to look for work or get information. She listened carefully, taking in every detail. It was clear that she was thinking about her next steps. Even though she had a safe place for the moment, she did not want to depend on anyone for too long. She wanted to stand on her own feet again. As they walked, she began to share a little more about her life. She spoke about her family and how things had become difficult over time. She did not give many details, but Daniel could hear the pain and strength in her voice. It was the voice of someone who had faced many challenges and kept going. Daniel listened without interrupting. He did not judge. He did not rush her. He simply walked beside her and let her speak when she felt ready. That simple support meant more to her than long speeches or advice. They stopped near a small park and sat on a bench. The morning sun was warmer now. Birds moved in the trees, and the town felt peaceful for a moment. Sitting there, the woman seemed more relaxed. She took a deep breath and looked out at the open space. She told Daniel that she had learned not to trust easily. Daniel saw a double take. Life had taught her to be careful. There had been times when she thought she was safe, only to find out she was not. That was why she had been so unsure the day before. Accepting help was not easy for her. Daniel told her he understood. He said he also had walls around his heart after losing his wife. He explained that sometimes being alone felt safer than opening up to someone again. But he also admitted that being alone all the time had made his world very small. For a moment, they both sat quietly, thinking about their own losses and struggles. Even though their stories were different, there was a shared feeling between them. They both knew what it was like to feel alone, even when surrounded by people. When they walked back to the house, the mood felt lighter, not happy in a loud way, but calmer and more open. The house did not feel like just Daniel's space anymore. It felt like a place where two people could breathe for a moment. Inside, the woman helped Daniel clean up a little. It was a small thing, but it showed that she did not want to feel like a burden. Daniel appreciated that. He told her she did not have to help, but she said she wanted to. Doing something simple with her hands made her feel more normal and more in control. As they worked, they talked about small plans. She said she wanted to look for work and maybe talk to people at the community center. Daniel offered to drive her there later if she wanted. She thanked him, but she also said she wanted to try to handle some things on her own. Daniel respected that. Throughout the day, the feeling of trust grew slowly, not in big, dramatic ways, but in small, quiet moments. The way they spoke to each other, the way they respected each other's space, the way they listened without pushing. For Daniel, having someone else in the house brought back feelings he thought were gone forever. It reminded him of what it felt like to share life, even in simple ways. For the woman, having a safe place, even for a short time, gave her strength to think about the future. instead of just surviving the present. By the afternoon, both of them felt that something important was happening, even if they could not fully explain it. It was not just about shelter or help. It was about being seen as a person, not just as a problem or a stranger. That day became a quiet turning point. Nothing big or dramatic happened, but something inside both of them shifted. The woman began to believe that maybe not all doors were closed. Daniel began to believe that his life was not only about looking back at what he had lost. In the soft light of that day, two separate stories started to connect. They did not know where it would lead. They did not make big promises. But they both felt that this meeting was not just an accident. It was a small moment of human connection that gave both of them a little more strength to face whatever came next. The next morning arrived more slowly than the first. The house was quiet, and the desert air felt heavier, as if something important was about to happen. Daniel woke up with a strange feeling in his chest. It was not fear, and it was not happiness. It was more like a deep awareness that this day would be different. He got out of bed and went to the kitchen. He made coffee again, but this time his hands moved more slowly. His mind was busy. He kept thinking about the woman in the spare room. He wondered what she was planning to do. Would she leave today? Would this be the last morning they shared under the same roof? The sound of a door opening softly made him turn. She walked into the kitchen, looking more serious than before. She looked rested, but there was a thoughtful look on her face. It was the look of someone who had spent the night thinking about hard choices. They greeted each other quietly. Daniel poured her a cup of coffee without asking, and she accepted it with a small nod. They sat at the table, but this time the silence felt heavier. It was not uncomfortable, but it was full of meaning. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the clock on the wall and the soft noise of coffee cups touching the table. Daniel could feel that she wanted to say something important. He waited, giving her the space to speak when she was ready. Finally, she looked up at him. Her eyes were steady, but there was also a hint of worry in them. She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. She asked him in a quiet but clear voice, "Is your offer still good?" The words hung in the air. For a moment, Daniel did not answer, not because he did not want to, but because he wanted to understand what she really meant. He knew she was not just asking about staying one more night. She was asking something deeper. He gently asked what she meant. She looked down at her hands and then back at him. She explained that she did not just need one safe night. She needed time. Time to find work. Time to reconnect with people. Time to stand on her own feet again without feeling like she was always running. She told him that moving from place to place had worn her down. Always being unsure where she would sleep or how she would eat had made her tired in a way that sleep alone could not fix. What she needed was a small break from survival mode, a place where she could breathe and think clearly. Daniel listened carefully. Daniel well. He felt the weight of her words. This was no longer a simple favor. This was a real responsibility. Letting someone stay longer meant opening his life in a bigger way. It meant sharing his space, his routine, and his quiet world. For a brief moment, fear touched his heart. He had lived alone for a long time. He had grown used to making decisions only for himself. Letting someone else in meant change, and change always came with uncertainty. But then he remembered how empty his house had felt for years. He remembered how small his world had become. He also remembered how much strength it had taken for her to ask for help. That was not weakness. That was courage. He looked at her and spoke honestly. He told her that his offer was still good, but he wanted them to be clear with each other. He said she could stay for a while, as long as they both respected each other and worked toward her becoming independent again. This was not meant to be permanent, but it could be a safe place for now. The woman's shoulders relaxed a little when she heard his words. Her eyes softened. She thanked him, and this time her voice shook slightly. It was clear that his answer meant more to her than she could easily say. She promised that she would not take advantage of his kindness. She said she wanted to work, save money, and build her life again. She did not want to be a burden. She wanted to be a guest who was moving forward, not someone who was stuck. Daniel told her he respected that. He said he was not trying to control her life. He just wanted to offer support, not take away her independence. He told her that as long as they were honest and respectful, they could make it work. That conversation changed the feeling in the house. The air felt different. It was as if a quiet agreement had been made, not written on paper, but felt in the heart. Later that morning, they talked about practical things. They discussed simple rules like sharing space, privacy, and helping with small household tasks. Just simple understanding. It felt natural, not forced. The woman said she wanted to go to the community center again to ask about work and local help. Daniel offered to drive her, but she said she wanted to walk part of the way on her own. She wanted to feel like she was taking control of her life again. Daniel admired that. Before she left, she stood at the door and looked back at him. She thanked him again, but this time there was more strength in her voice. It was not just the voice of someone receiving help. It was the voice of someone who was starting to believe in herself again. As she walked away, Daniel stood quietly and watched her for a moment. He felt a mix of emotions. There was concern, hope, and something close to pride. Not pride in himself, but pride in seeing someone choose to keep going despite everything. Throughout the day, Daniel found himself thinking about her. He went to work, but his mind kept returning to that morning conversation. He realized that by saying yes, he had also said yes to change in his own life. That evening when she returned, she looked tired but more hopeful. She told him she had spoken to people at the center. There were no jobs right away, but there were leads. Small chances. Nothing certain, but enough to keep trying. They sat and talked about it over a simple dinner. Daniel listened and offered encouragement, but he did not try to take over. He let her lead her own story that made her feel respected, not saved. As the night grew quiet, both of them felt that something important had shifted. They were no longer just a driver and a stranger. They were two people sharing a small part of life, each helping the other in ways they did not fully expect. For the woman, asking that question in the morning was a turning point. It was the moment she stopped just surviving and started planning again. For Daniel, saying yes was a turning point too. It was the moment he opened his life to something new, after years of closing himself off. Neither of them knew how long this new chapter would last. They did not make big promises or long plans, but they both understood that this small agreement was built on trust, respect, and hope. That simple morning question had changed everything. It was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet and honest. But sometimes the quiet moments are the ones that shape lives the most. Days slowly turned into weeks. What had started as a simple offer of one night became a small, steady routine for both of them. The house, once quiet and heavy with loneliness, now carried gentle signs of shared life. There were 2 cups in the sink instead of 1. There were quiet footsteps in the hallway. There were small conversations that filled the empty spaces. For Daniel, this change felt strange at first. He had lived alone for so long that sharing his space took time to get used to. But little by little, he noticed something important. The house no longer felt like a place he just slept in. It felt more like a place where life was happening again. The woman kept her promise. Every morning, she woke up early and prepared herself for the day. She went to the community center, asked about jobs, and talked to people in town. Some days were disappointing. Some days, she came back tired and quiet. But she did not give up. Each small effort was a step forward. Daniel watched her with quiet respect. He did not try to control her choices. He only offered support when she asked for it. Sometimes that support was just a ride. Sometimes it was a simple meal waiting for her when she got back. Sometimes it was just listening while she talked about her day. Slowly, trust between them grew stronger. It was not fast or dramatic. It was built in small, simple moments. The way they respected each other's space, the way they spoke honestly, the way they did not judge each other's past. One afternoon, the woman came home with a small smile on her face. It was not a big smile, but it was different from before. She told Daniel that she had been offered a few hours of work at a local place. It was not full-time and it was not perfect, but it was a start. Daniel felt happy for her. He congratulated her and told her how proud he was of her effort. For her, that small job meant more than money. It meant proof. Proof that she could begin again. Proof that her life was not stuck in one place forever. With her first small paycheck, she insisted on helping with some household costs. Daniel did not want to take it at first, but she explained that it was important for her. She did not want to feel like she was only receiving. She wanted to contribute. Daniel respected that and accepted in a fair and simple way. Their relationship stayed respectful and clear. They were not trying to become something they were not. They were two people helping each other through a difficult time. For her, Daniel was a safe place and a support. For Daniel, she was a reminder that life could still bring new meaning, even after loss. Some evenings, they sat together and talked about their pasts, not in deep detail, but enough to understand each other better. The woman spoke about her culture, her roots, and the strength she had learned from her people. Daniel listened with interest and respect. He learned that her identity was an important part of her strength, even during hard times. Daniel also shared more about his wife. He talked about their life, their plans, and how hard it had been to move forward after she passed away. The woman listened quietly, offering understanding instead of advice. That simple listening helped Daniel more than he expected. One night, Daniel realized something important. He was no longer only living in memories of the past. He was living in the present. Again. The pain of loss was still there, but it no longer controlled every part of his life. Helping someone else had helped him too. For the woman, having stability even for a short time changed how she saw herself. She no longer felt like she was only running from one place to another. She felt like someone who was building something, even if it was small and slow. Over time, her work hours increased. She started meeting more people in town. She began to talk about finding her own place one day. The idea both excited and scared her. Excited because it meant independence. Scared because it meant stepping out of a safe space again. Daniel supported her in this goal. He reminded her that the house would always be a safe place while she prepared for the next step. He did not try to hold her back. He understood that true help was not about keeping someone close. It was about helping them stand on their own. One evening, as they sat quietly, the woman thanked Daniel in a deeper way than before. She told him that his kindness had changed her path. She said that if he had not stopped on that road, her life might have gone in a very different direction. Her voice was calm but full of feeling. Daniel told her that stopping for her had also changed his life. He said that helping her had helped him find purpose again. He reminded her that she had done the hard work herself. He only opened a door. She was the one who walked through it. As time went on, the woman saved money and planned carefully. Finally, one day, she told Daniel that she had found a small place of her own. It was not big or perfect, but it was hers. Her eyes were full of mixed emotions: happiness, fear, and pride all at once. Daniel felt a deep mix of feelings too. He was happy for her, truly happy. But he also knew the house would be quiet again. Still, this quiet would be different. It would not be the heavy, empty quiet from before. It would be the quiet of a chapter completed, not a life closed. On her last evening in the house, they shared a simple meal. Nothing special, but meaningful. They talked about how far she had come and how much had changed since that day on the highway. The woman packed her small bag, the same bag she had carried when Daniel first saw her walking alone. But now, that bag felt lighter. Not because it held less, but because she carried more hope inside herself. Before she left, they stood at the door for a long moment. Words felt too small for everything they had been through. Finally, she thanked him one last time. Daniel told her he believed in her and that she would always be welcome to visit. As she walked away, Daniel watched her, just like he had on the first day. But this time, she was not walking in exhaustion and uncertainty. She was walking with purpose and direction. Daniel closed the door slowly and stood in the quiet house. The silence returned, but it did not feel empty. It felt peaceful. The house held new memories now. Memories of kindness, trust, and change. What started as a simple stop on a lonely road had become a turning point for two lives. The woman found stability and strength. Daniel found purpose and healing. Their story was not loud or famous. No one would write it in history books, but it was real. It was about how one small act of kindness can grow into something powerful. Sometimes a single decision can change two lives forever. Sometimes offering a place to stay can become a place where hope begins.